Hewitt, and we're going to move now to the 23rd Congressional, or the Senate District. I'd like to ask Jeff Hewitt to come forward while the other folks take their seats. Jeff, you're first.
You promised me a teleprompter. Anyway, no. Hey, listen, I'm Jeff Hewitt. I'm Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Calamasa. If any of you know Latin, you know what Pro Tem stands for. Too dangerous to have any real power. I did get an endorsement today. Finally, my wife, she endorsed me, and but she only did that under the condition that I left the house. I was born in Redlands in 1953. My father was born in Redlands in 1923, and my grandfather was born in Redlands in 1886, only four miles away from here. And his uncle, Walter Butler, came out with the founders of Redlands, Judson and Brown from Yale, as the head engineer of the original Big Bear Dam. I still contain all the original pictures with the 20 mule teams and the rocks that they built it with. I've got a degree in biology from Cal State San Bernardino. I speak Spanish fluently, and I have 3 contractor's licenses. None of this, including the fact that I've been here, my family, for over 100 years, makes me necessarily a good candidate for the state senate. But there is one thing that I have that I feel that no other candidate that's running against me has. And it's not a bad sense of humor. I have an ability to build bridges. When I came on to the Calamasa City Council 3 years ago, we had 2 people on one side and 2 on the other that couldn't stand each other. Nothing was getting done in the city for the constituents because all the battles were personal. There were personal attacks and egos involved. And coming from a background of digging about 10,000 swimming pools where every yard I came into the back of had a new rock in the gear, so to speak. There were variables as far as access, there were variables as far as finding somewhere to get rid of the dirt, and there were variables as far as hitting rocks like here in Mentone. But every one of those pools I successfully dug. I never had to pull off of one. So when I came on the city council, dealing with people's egos was relatively easy. With a combination of using the same guilt trips that I use on my 6 kids, it works with people that are older than me too. And trying to have them focus on doing the work at hand and not necessarily having to agree with somebody. You'd be surprised at how many city councilmen get really mad if the person that they think should vote with them doesn't vote with them. That's ego. Now we actually talk to each other and we say good things about each other. And you know what? When we come in, we have a vigorous debate, and at the end of the day, we vote. And then we move on. That's how democracy works. Now, when I go to the state senate, I'm going to face 28 Democrats and 11 Republicans. You don't have to be a math wizard to figure out the mathematics. The Republicans have no power right now. However, they can have power if someone comes up there that is not a Republican but shares values and views with both sides. There are a lot of Democrats who have very, very conservative values, but they're not allowed to express them because of the caucus, the party caucus, the bosses behind the curtain, so to speak. I intend to develop relationships with those very senators, get a consensus of 9 plus 11, and with myself, I can pass meaningful laws to change the toxic atmosphere that every one of these candidates is talking about, and with the priority of bringing this state back to a more business-friendly state so we can go ahead and have gold rush again. Thank you.
We'll ask Mike Morrell to come forward, and I'm asking Jeff to stay on the platform. When Mike has finished, we will open it up for questions again from the audience.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you very much, and for the Tea Party and all the good work you do to help restore our country. You know, I heard about the American dream, and I don't think I've ever shared with you before. My parents, you know, many of our parents have shared with many of us here that they wanted us to have a better life and to go to college. You know, my parents just wanted me to make it through high school, you know? And that's the truth, because they had both dropped out. And maybe it took me 6 or 7 years, but I did make it. But it's interesting because I was driven to try to open my own business. And I did, and I never doubted those opportunities would be there. But things are changing in our country. And one of the things, I've been married now for 36 years. Joni and I have some great kids. And one of the things I wanted to do is I believe a father's responsibility, a parent's responsibility, is to leave to our children a better nation. And so my wife said, I think that's good. You should run politics, but not until they're out of the house and gone. So I got into this game a little bit late, but it's probably a good thing because I've learned a lot of things. And so I did get in because I do believe in those political principles of limited constitutional government. I think all of you who heard me speak before know how much I value those things. Those documents are not a living document. That's why the Declaration says they're self-evident truths. They're economic, politically, and moral truths. Thank you. And that's why that makes that statement so boldly. And it says it's tied to the laws of nature, and nature is God. Meaning that you can discover truth and right and wrong on how to vote on laws, whether through human reason or through divine revelation. But one thing, providence, you can ignore and neglect those laws. A country can for a season, but he will make sure they are turned correctly the way he wants them someday, either at our peril or because we, the people, are going to change him. And we are going to change him, ladies and gentlemen. And on that theme, a lot of people are going to go to Sacramento and get a lot of bills passed. You know, we had 4,000 bills this year, I think they've introduced. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I want to limit government's power. You know, thank you. Most of the governors in America their states are prospering right now, they're coming to California. Some of them have offices here. And they are still in our businesses, and the reason why, they give 2 reasons, is we create too many regulatory laws and we overtax. Keep clapping, I like that, thank you. And so my goal is to limit these bills and to reduce them by reminding the consent of the governed. What we have to do is we have to go back out there and elect people and upgrade those people we send to represent us. And that's what the Tea Party is all about, and that's one of my goals too. One of the things that I did, a lot of us have gotten up here and said, here's what I intend to do. I passed out a 1-page sheet, a fact sheet of some of the things I've been doing since I've been elected. I've had a lot of successes. I've gotten things done in Sacramento, but often there's diamonds in our own backyard. There's a lot we can do right in our district by appealing to people, working with businesses, and getting government out of the way so we can let job creators create jobs. And I've done a lot of that, by the way. So you have that 1-page fact sheet there that says what I've done, and so what I want to do is more of the same, but if I get elected, Lord willing, I'll be doubling my territory, so I want to continue to build upon what I've been doing, and you can see that. A couple other things you probably should know. I have been endorsed by some good folks, and I'm the only candidate. Because of my track record in Sacramento, I've been endorsed by the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, keep our property taxes low. The California Small Business Association, and the National Federation of Independent Businesses. But one of the things that make me most proud is we've ran almost 300 interns from colleges through my office that we've trained, and I've got the endorsement of the Young Republicans for San Bernardino and Riverside County. Because as parents and citizens, we need to save this country for them, but they're invested in it. And that's why again, my office, thanks to my good staff, we've trained, again, about 250 to 300 of them, and some of them now taking their places in Washington, D.C., working for congressmen, senators, state assemblymen, and they're involved heavily in many campaigns here. And we're going to continue to do that. Lastly, I just want to close by, when I went to Sacramento, I understand the difference between a preference and a principle. It's okay to compromise your preferences, not your principles. We will not compromise, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank you for that and ask that you'll vote for me on or before March 25th.
So let's hear your questions for these two gentlemen.
You have a question from the audience.
Hi, Mike. This question is for you, sir. I'm Glenda with the Libertarian Party of California. And in light of what you had to say about wanting to work with businesses, I was wondering if you could tell me why it is that you voted for AB 1425 last year. And what that bill does is that it restricts the rights of homebrewers of wine and beer from being able to participate in competitions, exhibitions, and festivals. And most of the breweries that have opened up in this area have been started by people who are in associations participating in competitions, exhibitions, and festivals. If you take Ritual Brewing, for instance, which is the newest brewery over in Redlands, those gentlemen are a part...
Okay, I think we have the idea of the question. Just care to comment?
You know, like I said, I'm learning a lot. And my record, again, I think shows that I've been very pro-business. And every year there's 3,000 to 4,000 bills. So I've been there 3 years, so we're probably at 12,000 bills. I have to be honest with you, and I apologize, I don't remember that bill. But I'm sure if I voted against it, it was a good reason, and I'll tell you why. Many of the... Let me finish. Here's what I've learned, ladies and gentlemen. The big print giveth, and a little print taketh away up there so often in Sacramento. You have so many things where it may have 80% of that bill can be really good, but to 20% of it is deadly to someone else. The second thing that I've discovered, a just law is when it helps this person and this person over here. But in Sacramento, what I see a lot of is it takes away from that person and then gives that person an advantage. So I don't remember that particular bill, but I'm sure when I read the analysis, I could go back and I probably made the right vote. Thank you.
Mr. Hewitt, you didn't mention you're part of the Libertarian Party. How do the Libertarians differ from the Republicans?
How do libertarians differ from the Republicans? Is that what you... Yeah. Libertarians are basically the party of Thomas Jefferson. They believe in liberty over everything. That's actually freedom. Because liberty is something that's granted from a king or whatever. Freedom's actually something that's inherent to all of us. And I think that libertarians overall think that the government should stay out of their pocketbook, out of their business, and out of their bedroom. It also should stay out of their church. Libertarians really want everybody to have the freedom to raise their families in this state the way they want, to keep government from telling them how to bring those kids up. But it also, as libertarians, we don't believe the government should take money from one person because they think it can be better served to some other person. We're basically very fundamentally about small government And, government is actually very essential, but it has to be an efficient, lean government with very few laws.
The Libertarians, or specifically yourself, what do you think about drug legalization and abortion?
Okay, on drug legalization specifically, let's talk about the marijuana issue right now. They just legalized marijuana for recreational use in 2 states. We are going to have that as an experiment. We're going to see what happens in Colorado. If crime rates go up and all kinds of other things, if there's a lot of health problems from it, I think that here in California it's changing, and they'll probably put that on the ballot in 2016. If it passes, we need to deal with what happens there.
Let me stop you there. Do you favor legalization, you personally?
I personally do not smoke marijuana. I personally think that along with any freedom comes responsibility.
You're not answering the question.
What do you mean I'm not answering the question?
Answering the question, I asked you, do you favor legalization of marijuana?
Do I favor the legalization of marijuana for people of age of consent? Yes, I do. Yeah.
Audience question.
As you know, Mike, and I don't know you yet, but the agricultural part of our state, the growers in our state, and my company is very involved with growers all over the world.
That's right.
This state's growers are being destroyed. They can hardly stay in business anymore. The growers down in Indio, for instance, have been almost put out of business by regulations that cause them to have to put their orchards under greenhouses that have clean room type environments, okay? So we have that going on. And in the valley, the farmers are being robbed not only of their water, but they're being regulated out of being able to make a living. What are either of you going to do to try to get some common sense back into the legislature and remove some of those regulations that are literally destroying what is a third of the country's food?
Okay.
Let's start with Mike on this one.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Farm Bureau has endorsed me because of my track record in the legislature, the California Farm Bureau, because it's tough. I got to tell you, farmers are business owners, and we have a government, our president as well as our speaker in California say that they're progressives, and so that's not disparaging about them. That's who they call themselves. And of course, progressive just simply means they believe in the expansion of the bureaucratic state. The problem that comes in there is we all love our country and our world, but we have some radical environmentalists in Sacramento, and those two forces, I mean, they are protecting little, sucker fish and the Santa Ana, I forgot the name of that fish, but anyway, over people's, the smelt, Delta smelt, thank you. And they're not caring about families or producing, and not only that, some of the water storage, there's another problem where they're diverting water away from farmers up in the Central Valley and letting that fresh water go right into the San Francisco Bay Delta. And so what we have to do is we have to have a change. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to get people that believe in the expansion of the bureaucratic state out of politics, because they are driving farmers. Thank you. Yeah, it's insidious. There's in the book of Romans. It reminds me. It says, "Pretending to become wise, they became fools, and worship the creation rather than the Creator." And I cannot, for the life, figure out. You have growing adults who would protect, a fly rather than a family or a farmer. Especially, California produces over $32 billion a year in agriculture revenue. That's more than all of the states put together in America. We can feed practically the whole world in California, and for some reason, they're trying to drive our farmers out of here. It's wrong. I've been fighting against my friends across the aisle to stop that stuff, but it'll be a tough fight until we get some of the bad guys out of there. Thank you.
You can do it. Oh, what the heck. I'm not endorsed by any water group at all. I actually sit on the San Gorgonio Pass Area Water Task Force, and I just heard absolutely nothing here, and I'll tell you why. The Delta smelt is not the problem. The problem is that we have been getting our water from Northern California since 1960 when they did the Feather River or State Water Project. They are talking about building billion-dollar twin tunnels, 40 feet in diameter, 150 feet underneath, 30 miles from Sacramento down to Tracy, because the water from the Back Bay is too salty now. But I just heard a report from Joe Zoba, who is director of the Yucaipa Valley Water District, and he said right now we are using more kilowatt hours to move the water 500 miles from the Sacramento Delta to our area than what it would take to desalinate it right down next to San Onofre and move it 60 miles inland. We can't keep talking about doing things. We have to come up with real answers, and we can no longer demonize the other side. We have to work with them. And if you like clapping because he says all the right things, you're going to get the same thing you got for the last 3 years. Absolutely nothing. Vote for change. Einstein said that the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Thank you.
We have how many more folks for questions? How many
I've
are?
got 3 in line here. I know Mike would like to respond to that, but we have audience. I have 3 more.
Mike Morrell has asked to readdress this question.
From a nice armchair quarterback here, my friend on the left who just insulted me. Last week there was a bill I'd like you to know. It was on water bonds because we need water to help farmers. But you know, when you read that water bond, I was amazed, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the facts. They had $28 million, if I remember these figures correctly, for health and human services for food. They had another 20 or 30 million in there, so when the farmers go out of business, they can give their workers subsidized housing. I worked that bill, and then I finally got to a point there was actually a little bit of money in there for water. So that and the environmentalists, we already know we're supposed to desalinize and try to put some plants on the coast. They won't let us do it, my friends across the aisle. Those answers sound really nice, but to get that job done, these guys up there will not do it. If you read their bills, and you had to sit through what I read the other day, it was disgusting. Very little of that went for money, or went for water.
Thank you. Another question?
I have a question for the gentleman on the right. Have the libertarians taken the time to study the use of marijuana, that it is the gateway drug, that people, when they start using it at a young age, they actually don't mature in their brain? And have you ever went to a rehab and saw people where they started with marijuana? I think you should investigate that.
Listen, that's a very good question, and I'm honest with you. However, I agree with you 100%. Marijuana, in some ways, is the most dangerous of all drugs because people think it's harmless, but guess what it does? It takes away the ambition of our young people when it's already very difficult because they have very little jobs to go do. So what they do is they go ahead and they start getting loaded. If we go ahead and change this environment and actually get some jobs back here, a lot of that will take care of itself. Now, my fine opponent here just said that I said something bad about him. I would like to remind him, just the other night on the Lou Desmond show, Lou Desmond referred to 4 knuckleheads that were running against him. This man had a chance to say, you know what, Lou? They're not 4 knuckleheads. They're 4 other people that are sticking their neck out to try to change things in the state for the better, too. But he didn't. He made a joke about having them on his show after the 25th. And I'll tell you what, my dad had Harley Davidsons, and they had knuckleheads and panheads. And the knuckleheads were really, really stubborn but powerful. The panheads were high maintenance and never did anything. I'd rather be a knucklehead than a panhead.
Thank you very much. We have the Wong doctor here.
Okay, the Wong doctor. All right. Roughly 60% of the veterans have hepatitis C. And I'm obligated to treat patients with hepatitis C with anti-hepatitis C medicines. Same thing with glaucoma. Same thing with HIV. I give antiretroviral medicines. I don't give marijuana. If you have glaucoma, you give medicines for glaucoma, not medical marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Don in line next, or Jackie? Jackie.
I'm short, but I'm mighty. Hey, my question would be, well, it's not really a question, I guess, is that when we're talking about the bills being passed up there and not being passed, is that we have to realize we have pork bills that are going through. And in those pork bills, you might say it's one thing, but you got like about 5 other different things that money is being designated to.
Those, are you talking about on the budget with the subcommittees?
Almost all of the bills that we go
Well,
through.
I think the bill that Glenda was referring to actually it dealt with wine and beer, and there was one other specific part about symphonies allowing beer to be sold, homemade beer to be sold. Those were the only things in that entire bill.
That's right.
So there was nothing else about it. I mean, you're either for small business, and again, we wouldn't have Hangar 24 if he'd been in the legislature and voted that way 10 years ago. These are the opportunities in this area that are going to change things.
Can't hear.
All right, let's let Mr. Morrell address how well they spend our money in Sacramento. How well do they spend our money in Sacramento?
Well, you know, there was a study done, the 100 top charities in America. For every dollar you donate to them, they get over 90 cents back into the hands of the people they want to help. So I did a little research on some of the programs in California. And because of the pensions, some of it, you know, the benefits and high pay, administrative salaries especially, that washes down to 30 to 40 cents on the dollar. So I don't think they spent it as wisely or as prudent as what businesses do or charities and nonprofits. Second thing too, I've noticed in California we get about $12,000 per student, but by the time it works its way through a bureaucratic pipeline and it goes in, for an example, to the San Bernardino County School District, and then it funnels into perhaps the Rancho Cucamonga School District, which there's one of 5 school districts, that money gets washed down from $12,200 to anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000. And so again, part of limiting government's power is to return our tax dollars back to local municipalities. And thank you. And allow our citizens to have the responsibility, accountability, but also the money where they keep an eye on it, and we keep it right here locally. And then that cuts sort of the middleman out of the picture, just as it should be. Our tax dollars should remain in our local communities. And again, there is a lot of waste and fraud's been proven. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for any more?
We have, if we have quick questions.
Okay, I've got 3 in line now.
We have 2 more.
I have a third. We have a third here. All right, we have very quick questions, and we're going to have 30-second answers.
All right, we have a choice. We can have a little time at the end of the evening for general questions. All right, we'll take the questions quickly.
Research has shown that a legislator's voting record will flow 100% from the answer to these 3 quick questions. Are you pro-life, pro-sanctity of marriage, and pro-Israel? Yes or no?
Mr. Hewitt.
I think that somebody carrying a baby to term and not aborting it and then raising it for 18 years is the ultimate expression of responsibility. And I think that's one of the biggest problems in our society today, that people don't take responsibility for their actions. Thank you. What's the second one? Israel?
His questions were, are you pro-life, pro-sanctity of marriage, and pro-Israel?
Sanctity of marriage, my wife's here. Yes, I'm for sanctity of marriage, totally. And then, and I'll tell you what.
That's not what he meant, though. And
I know, and I'm going to tell you what. I don't care who gets married. I don't think it's the government's place to come in and force any religious institution that finds it objectionable to do something they don't believe in. So and on Israel, Israel is one of our strongest allies in the world. It's certainly our most strong ally in an area that is about ready to blow up, so to speak. I hope that's right.
Mr. Morrell.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll always be pro-life from beginning to end. Number one, I'm for traditional marriage, and I am pro-Israel, and pro-America. Thank you guys very much.
I believe we've allowed as much time as we can right at this juncture of the meeting. So the questions that are still remaining, if you'll hold them, we'll have time at the end.
Our libertarian guest here says he has a quick question. Let's let him ask it. Quick question.
Assemblyman Morrell, when you came to our Libertarian Party meeting, you couldn't remember if you decided to vote yes or no on Prop 14. You also didn't remember if you decided to vote yes or no on AB 1425. What do you remember?
Well, when you talk about 1485, that's how many bills was that?
You already got that number right.
You know what? I'm not even going to answer your question.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And we will move on to our next category. We're going to move to the United States Congress